Hi.
Hi, happy to have you for Artist Corner. For the camera, just for this one time, introduce yourself, name, major, and year, my good friend.
All right. My name is Jose Fernando Flores Jimenez. I am a third year Media X major. And was there something else?
No, that was it. Just the brass tacks.
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. And now, my first question to you, Jose, is are you enjoying UOP's art program so far as a Media X student?
I am. I enjoy it a lot because I think, as I've said many times, particularly about the Media X program, it opens up a lot of doors. There's a great deal of opportunities besides just the classes. It's the faculty, the equipment, and enrichment opportunities outside of the classroom that I think really have elevated at least my exposure and my experience with art making, and critical thinking about art that I wouldn't have had outside of being at Pacific. I will say that I tend to have the criticism, and admittedly, this is something that I think is positive, and I would hope every student has this, and that is that while it opens a lot of doors, I feel like it doesn't always push you or ask you to pursue opening those doors or going through those thresholds on your own. You kind of have to come in with that energy, and I think that's been the one obstacle I think I experience with the art program here at Pacific, is that I sometimes wish we were pushed more, but at the same time, I'd like to think that I think that because I surround myself with people that want to be pushed, and I want to push myself as well. And so there's a virtue in that, but I also just in general believe that I think as a program we could be and we are doing more. I've said this before. This is my second year saying this, and I think the faculty is listening. We are trying to advance this kind of pushing so that it's for the collective advancement of the students and not just dependent on the individual.
Right.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you next if you thought they could do any better, so that's like a great answer. It's
Yeah.
clear you've thought very in depth about this, so I love that. I love the constant thinking and evaluating of our system and how it works. So I think that's very important, especially in an art program where it's like anything could change at any moment. So it's good to be constantly be thinking about it.
I'd like to say, I'd like that you are opening it, and maybe I realize now kind of the context of the interview, but I love that it's about art, the art program, not necessarily just Media X and not necessarily graphic design or the entire department that we fall under. And I think that that's one thing, the inclusivity of the word art. To me, art is also in writing as well as in the visual mediums and in the technology things. And I think that's something that I do feel like is a strong virtue of this particular school as opposed to other schools. Other schools at this age and in the undergrad stage ask you to specialize, and here we are given a freedom that, as much as I feel like there is some pushing I want, that's not necessarily saying I want specialization to the nth degree in the way I think other institutions are. And I appreciate the freedom and the breadth of the Media X program and of the art community we have here, because it's not just one thing. And I think that also lends to a constant state of defining itself and of possibility, as well as, to me, it's allowed me to find new interests that I didn't have before.
I completely agree. I love how like free reign this, particularly the Media X major is, but like the whole art department kind of has that in common, where it's like they encourage you to try different avenues and think differently and think in new ways. So I completely agree. What does art mean to you personally?
To me, art is typically the narrative arts or story arts. I started in writing, and when I think about storytelling, I think about passing on knowledge, but not just knowledge, it's also experience. I think my experience here at Pacific, in different levels and in different spaces, has encouraged me to recognize the power in telling your story and your experience, and not just telling but also listening. And I think that there is a commercial world of storytelling that says that we're running out of stories to tell. And I think that we're not running out of stories to tell because we haven't run out of people to tell those stories. Those experiences are changing, and I think there's a certain amount of just communicating your place in the world and listening to somebody else's place that is what drives the importance of storytelling to me. Now, as for art on the broader sense, I think that the act of creation is something that the want to create something finds you. And I think there's an artist in everyone, just that we create different things. But art that is created, at least the art that's created to be shared, I think is made because there is a fundamental hope that something that hasn't been said or needs to be said is going to be said through this art, whether it's something hasn't been said by you to yourself, you haven't acknowledged, or the world isn't acknowledging and you would like them to. And so to put something where there is absence, I'm sorry, actually, I feel like I'm getting way too careful with my words just for the sake of sounding philosophical. The fact of the matter
we're all
is,
guilty of it.
yeah?
It's okay.
The fact of the matter is, I think art is just, it's in the simplest way, I think, expression. But I feel like the point I wanted to make is that if I could highlight one thing I said, I really do believe that everyone is an artist, no matter the field. No matter the field they have chosen, no matter what they are dedicated to, I think everyone in some way creates, and we each rationalize art as a different thing that we do, a different ism that we have dedicated ourselves to. But I think ultimately it's about passing on, and it's about bettering the world. At least that's what it is for me. Is that the only reason why I engage in art is because I think that that's the way I can make a difference. And sometimes there's a mysterious element to that, but I enjoy that, and everything else is just noise.
Right. Yeah. I feel like I listened to a whole dissertation about art, and I love that.
The thing is, I do think just the word art is it is curiously vague.
Yeah.
It's more of a guiding point than it
Yeah.
is a thing of itself. And I think that's where I'm getting stumped, is that the idea of thinking of art as something singular is just impossible because it is so encompassing of so much.
It's difficult to articulate that through a single point. I get what you mean.
It is. And ultimately, I think that if you dedicate yourself to medicine, you are an artist of that craft. I think if you dedicate yourself to literature, even if it's just the study of literature, there is an art to that. I think art itself just expresses the process of creating blank, or expressing blank. And so that's why to me art is all encompassing and yet not one thing. And that's why I started that with like what storytelling is to me, because I think that's the specific craft that I'm most interested in. I'm not the strongest visualist. I'm not the strongest creator of engaging visuals, but I know how visuals make me feel, and I know what stories I'd like to tell, and I think I can connect the dots between the two and try to tell a story using visuals. But that story, that narrative element, and I don't think all art has to be narrative. I think narrative is in its own way a tool, in the same way visuals are a tool. Animation is just one tool in the toolkit of storytelling, of not just storytelling, of arts. And arts don't have to have a beginning, middle, or end. It could just be a statement, a singular statement. narrative is a very specific thing, and I think we have this assumption, especially in film, because I think narrative is comfortable and commercial, that it has to tell a story, and even worse, sometimes it has to tell a very specific kind of story with specific beats and a specific kind of ending, a specific kind of protagonist.
Yeah, the story that is profitable. I think
Yeah,
is what it.
in a lot of ways, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, I find so much more freedom in thinking of narrative as something, just one thing, not everything,